boogeyman is real, and you found him.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm your number one fan.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane? We all go a little mad sometimes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
7 days.
I am Dracula.
We have such sights to show you. Boy!
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
I am the eater of worlds and of children.
What's in the fucking box?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
One by one we will take you.
Never get out of bed again!
You gotta be fucking kidding.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
Welcome, horror fans. It is Wednesday, just a hair past 7 p.m. because we had a little bit of a connection issue there, but it is time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the official podcast of the Monster Underground. And if you, dear horror fanatic out there, if you were listening to us at the top of the week on Sunday, remember, we do this live on YouTube every preceding Wednesday. So come and join us, hang on the live chat, see all the crazy shit that you wouldn't see because of the editing process. This week, we are looking back at select horror films released August 18th through August 24th. So thank you all so much for joining us for what will surely be a bloody good time. I am your host, JL. I hope you are all having a fantastic evening. Oh man. I was a little worried there for a moment because connection-wise, it just kept throwing back an error. It was like, StreamYard encountered an error. So I was a little worried, but eventually it just kind of kicked through. So I think we're good to go. So let me know if there's any issues on that end, on the broadcast end, but everything seems to be going swimmingly here. So I guess we'll find out. So first and foremost, let's put up that Patreon banner, those amazing Patreons or patron members, the subscribers who help us to make the show possible. There's their names down there in that banner below. We do appreciate every single one of you. Thank you very much. Like I said, all the stuff that we do here and behind the scenes could not be possible without you. So we do appreciate it. We love you all very much. Let's see who we have in the live chat tonight. Yeah, looks good. Yep, I've got the deal up here, so everything's looking solid. Oh, let's see. Case Cooper is here. He was first in the chat. Says, well met, just like the Deep Blue Sea. The poster tries to play out the success of Jaws, such as Hollywood. True. Yes. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the general motto of Hollywood there, Just keep going with what works until it doesn't work anymore. It's the easiest way to do it. Raven Darkstar's here. Good to see you, Raven. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. Travis Brown is here as well. Says, evening, y'all. I've just been on an alien kick with Resurrection and starting to play Isolation on my PC. Very cool. Isolation is a really fantastic game, much better than Colonial Marines was. And of course, we are all looking forward to Alien Romulus coming out this weekend. So it's coming out Friday. I know some of you may have early screenings for Thursday, but obviously no spoilers. But I've completely avoided the final trailer. I'm not watching it because I hear from some people it gives away too much, and I don't want to see that. I want to see it straight up. I want to go in blind. So I'm really looking forward to Alien Romulus when I get to see it. Not to mention, Regal Cinemas has their past popcorn buckets. Apparently, that's becoming the new rage, is to offer popcorn buckets that are themed to the movie that's being released. The Deadpool Wolverine ones being quite hilarious, very sexual in their kind of theme, but the Alien Romulus ones got announced, and there's two. There's an alien head, the xenomorph head popcorn bucket, which in my opinion looks kind of goofy, just because it's just the way the mold came out. I don't think it looks great. But the other one is a glowing face hugger canister. So it's like the canister that the face hugger was kept in, and it's got like a face hugger on it and like that. But it apparently has like this eerie kind of greenish glow to it. Very, very cool looking. And I think that those are available for purchase at Regal Cinemas across the nation, as long as they have supplies, I think for like $35. So those popcorn buckets, I have to admit, are pretty slick. There's a Regal Cinemas about an hour away from me. I could have gone and gotten one, but I didn't want to fight traffic because it got announced on Bloody Disgusting. And I was like, I think there'll be a run on them. They may not get enough. I didn't want to drive an hour and then be disappointed that I didn't get one. So I'd be kind of annoyed. But they're really, really cool. Very cool stuff. All right, let's see who else we got in the chat tonight. I see. Ooh, Casey Cooper has been a member of the Army of the Dead for 13 months. Thank you so much, Casey Cooper. You rock. I do appreciate that. Gabba to you wrote no less names, as I see that this week we're reviewing Darkman, aka Dutch Snap Zoom, the movie. We got some things. Okay. We have wonderful things to say. I'm just going to say that. We're going to dive into it. I think it's going to be amazing. But good to see you, Rodent. Thanks so much for being here. Lieutenant Jedi is here. Has been a member of the Army of the Dead for 8 months. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Jedi. You rock. Evening to you. Adam Strange says, "What's up, my Globetards and Heretics?" Good to see you, Adam Strange. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Sarcasm as well says, "Good evening, Daywalkers." Good evening, Sarcasm. Good to see you. Good to see you. That was me popping in. The issue that we had. Fortunately, hopefully, things remain stable. Fingers crossed. Let's see. Dib is here and has engaged lurk mode. Good to see you, Dib. Appreciate you hanging out. We always appreciate our lurkers as much as those in the chat. So you rock. John Monahan is here. Says, "Good evening." Good evening in my Dracula voice. Good evening. I can't do it. I need that kind of like that Transylvanian or Romanian accent. Like Lugosi knocked it out of the park. And I would say Oldman too. Oldman nailed it as well. But good to see you. Good to see you. Let me see. Who else do we have here? Rodent Less Name says, "I've heard that Romulus is good, but doesn't bring anything new to the table, just retreading existing stuff." Maybe. It's possible. I don't know. I've tried to avoid reviews just because I don't want any spoilers there. I don't want anybody giving anything away. So fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Let me see. Angel Rivera is here. Good to see you. Angel Rivera says, what up, horror fiends? Made it just in time. Yes, you did. Yep. Running solo tonight. Denova 28's here. Good to see you, Denova. It's been a minute. I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for hanging out. B Blanco as well says, "Hey, everybody." Tang Whistle is here as well. Says, "Woo. Good to see you, Tang. Appreciate you." Says, "Come through loud and clear for me." Excellent. Good to hear. And let me see. I think that's everybody. I think I got everyone. Travis Brown says, "I have to cover my eyes when the Alien Romulus final trailer was shown in Deadpool and Wolverine." Yeah, I don't want anything spoiling it because I've been waiting for There's two Alien things coming out. There's Alien Romulus, Fede Alvarez's effort that sits canonically in between Alien and Aliens. So there's that one, and then of course there's the series coming out, I believe, called Alien Earth, which is the subtitle there. But I think that's coming out on Hulu. I think Hulu has a series coming out. So Alien Earth and Alien Romulus are the two things that are playing that are like coming down the pipe. We are unfortunately not. I don't know the status of Prey 2, so I don't know like when we're going to get another Predator entry. But given the success of Prey and how good that one was, no doubt we're going to get a Prey 2. And I know that they're moving that forward until I think they're moving that forward into a war. I don't know what war. I don't know what war specifically there, but I know the time period is moving forward to another period in history. So I know we have that, but given that Hulu has Hulu's owned by Disney, and Disney owns Fox, and Fox owns the rights to both Predator and Aliens, has brought those together. I'm pretty sure it's 20th Century Fox, owns both of those. Then we know that eventually we're probably gearing up towards another Alien Predator film. So establishing these things, if Alien Romulus and Alien Home really do well, like very, very well, we may, and Prey 2 does exceptionally well as well. If those three things pop off, we may be gearing towards another Alien Predator film in the future. Don't know when. This is pure speculation, but if they're generating money, if they're doing double, triple, quadruple their budgets, and people are tuning in to watch it, then why wouldn't they, go back and they could do like a series, or they could do like a limited series, Alien versus Predator, something of that nature. I have no idea. So, but we'll find out. We will definitely find out. Sally Skellington is here. Good to see you, Sally. Thanks so much for being here tonight. We do appreciate it. You rock. But yeah, interesting stuff. Really excited for this weekend. Speaking of which, of movie monsters. So I found this to be really, really cool. There are a few directors that really know how to do movie monsters like extremely well. Okay, Carpenter is one of them. Del Toro is one. Okay, yeah, but Spielberg, do legitimate monsters exceptionally well, and it's few and far between. Most of the time, you get kind of like these ramshackle, lackadaisical, amalgamations of like shit that we already are aware of, but like legitimate scary monsters, bringing that true other, the true, like the terrifying shadow to life. In that respect, that's a very difficult task. It's, it's a hard hurdle to overcome, especially with practical effects. And the template for all of the monsters that we enjoy obviously rests in the golden age of Universal Studios, with Universal's classic monsters: Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera, Creature from the Black Lagoon. And of those monsters, Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Gill Man, is my favorite. That has always been my favorite, followed very, very closely by the Wolfman, by Lon Chaney's Wolfman. But I will always love the Creature from the Black Lagoon, because it was the first real time that when I was watching horror films where the monster is only a monster by virtue of what other people have done to it. That the people in that, like the explorers in that, they're the ones that came into its territory, fucked with its shit, and incurred its wrath because they were trespassing in its territory and screwing it up. And so the humans, yes, Angel Rivera, humans were the real monsters. The Gill Man was just living his best life, chilling on a beach, shooting a Corona commercial, finding his beach, man, just living his best life alone in the Black Lagoon. And here come these humans to go fuck up everything and, destabilize the whole thing. And they are surprised when it reacts the way it reacts. And I always, that resonated with me for the longest time. That the things that we perceive to be monsters are not because they are monsters, but because we have made them into monsters out of our fear and our ignorance. And that's why I love Gill Man. Gill Man is amazing. Okay, it's been my favorite Universal monster since the first time I saw it when I was single digits. I think I was 7 when I first saw Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I'll always go to that. So it's always been interesting to me that the panache of Dracula, or the ferocity of the Wolfman, or the iconic imagery of Frankenstein, or the Invisible Man, that these monsters keep getting retread because there's something about them that connects us to them as people. The Invisible Man is a man who strove too far, who reached too far. The perils of not knowing one's limitations, the perils of daring to trespass where only angels tread. That whole kind of, like, to get poetic about it. Frankenstein, same thing. Man reaching beyond his reaching beyond the limits of whatever. Like, there are religious overtones to these things, but like science over like the perils of science, stuff like that. Dracula, the aristocracy and the toxic, or I would say the parasitic relationship of those in power versus those that have power taken from them, and the narcissism there. It's like there's human aspects that we can identify with. Same thing with the werewolf, the cursed human being, the duality of man, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Phantom of the Opera. All of these things we can relate to, but the Gill Man is decidedly from the start not human. It never was human, never will be human, doesn't move from human to monster. There's no duality there. The Gill Man is simply an aspect of nature, no different than humans themselves. And I guess because of that, it just doesn't get retread. Because what can you add to the pathos of the Gill Man? What do you add there? It ostensibly, unless it can communicate with people, it comes off like an animal just reacting to stuff. Does that make for a compelling monster? Do you have to do things to it like Del Toro did with Abe Sapien in the Hellboy comics, or like Mike Mignola did in the Hellboy comics? Del Toro took with that. Doug Jones being wonderful portrayal of Abe Sapien. Mike Mignola, went there with the Hellboy comics, did his version of the Gill Man, the intelligent, extremely intelligent, very smart, psychically attuned fish person. And then Del Toro went in another direction with the whole Shape of Water, fish sex thing. But the Gill Man doesn't get retread, and it's always bothered me. There's something in between us. That there's some sort of lack of connective tissue as far as the audience connecting with that. But that looks like it will be the case no more, because I was very, very, very excited to read that James Wan Legendary James Wan. We're very, very familiar with James's work. James Wan has been tapped to helm a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie for Universal Studios. Now, the question is Universal trying to push forward with their dark universe thing? Are they still trying to build this, this meta universe where this connected universe a la the MCU where they use their Universal monsters? I don't know. No further details have come out as to what they're doing with that. I will say that Invisible Man, fantastic. I will say that a couple of the Dracula films that we've gotten out recently, really good. Really decent. The James McAvoy and Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe horror film. I said Harry Potter, but the James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe Frankenstein movie was actually really good. It was pretty decent. Very, very, very in tune with the source material as far as the modern Prometheus. So there are some good stuff out there, but then you've got like Tom Cruise, dumping, Tom Cruise and Universal dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into The Mummy, and it's just atrocious. And one terrible film can just shoot a franchise in the face. So I don't know what the ultimate plans for this are. And no details have been released. Will this Black Lagoon movie be in modern age? Will it be, a more classical piece? Will it, we don't know what decade it takes place in. We don't know any details as to the plot or what's going to go into it. But what we do know is that James Wan, one of the leading heads behind things like the Conjuring series and so on and so forth, and a very, very huge fan, a known huge fan of practical effects, of getting those monsters across the board, as terrifyingly as they can. A master of light and shadow and compelling stories, before he starts retreading them over and over and over again for the commercial machine. But I like, one of my favorite directors and my absolute favorite Universal monster coming together to make a new Creature from the Black Lagoon film. Now, like I said, no details on this are out. And apparently Lee Wannell is helming a Wolfman film. So Lee Wannell, who has collaborated many times with James Wan, Lee Wannell's handling the Wolfman, James Wan is handling Creature from the Black Lagoon, and we do know that Universal Pictures and Atomic Monster will be behind it. So, currently it's in development. We don't have any further details. I'm very, very curious, but let us know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com if you yourself are excited about James Wan helming a Creature from the Black Lagoon film, or if you're excited about Lee Wannell helming a Wolfman film. Very, very curious about that. I really, really am. The Lieutenant Jedi says a Victorian-era Black Lagoon would be awesome. That would be pretty sick, because the Frankenstein film with McAvoy, the Frankenstein film with McAvoy and Radcliffe, that was Victorian-era set. And, I mean, they nailed it. As far as production value goes in recreating that environment, they knocked it out of the park. The dialogue was fantastic. The effects were fantastic. There was just a lot of really, really good stuff in that film. It always bummed me that it got overlooked, because, unfortunately, that movie, the way it was made, would really only cater to big-time fans of the Universal monsters. If you loved Shelley's book, if you loved the Karloff interpretation, if you loved what Universal did with it prior, and you just enjoy that level of that style of classical storytelling, that movie will appeal to you. Okay, but it didn't do a lot of people. It's kind of niche in that respect. But with practical effects like we can do today, far superior to like one of the best looking Gilman we got back in the 80s, which was Monster Squad. With what we can do today, look at what Del Toro did with Shape of Water, Del Toro did with Hellboy and Hellboy 2. I know we can get a really fantastic monster. The question then will be, what will the story be and how will this play out? I'm extremely curious. Let us know down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com your thoughts. If you're excited about it. If you're not, I guess we'll find out. But I can tell you I am excited about that news. And Lee Wannell's Wolfman. I think that'll be really good too. I have a soft spot in my heart for the Anthony Hopkins, Benicio del Toro Wolfman. I thoroughly enjoyed that film. It was Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt, and Hugo Weaving. I loved the notion of Hugo Weaving being dismissed, or not really being dismissed, but being reassigned after the failure in the Ripper case, the failure to catch the Ripper. So he gets sent to this other place to investigate what should have been like an easy case with the Talbot, that was centering around the Talbots. He goes out to investigate. This turns into the Wolfman scenario. That would have been brilliant. Yeah, I mean, that was brilliant. I really loved how they wove these things together. And so I thought Del Toro, I thought Benicio was fantastic. I thought Anthony Hopkins was great. It was a nice return to form. Emily Blunt was good in that. She's always good in everything. So really good stuff. I enjoyed the Wolfman. I plus the practical effects. Del Toro's transformation. It was all brilliant. So Angel Rivera says, as long as Tom Cruise is banned from doing anything with it, yes, absolutely. And we don't need, chubby Russell Crowe being an angry Russell Crowe and then calling that thing Hyde, calling that thing Mr. Hyde, the Jekyll and Hyde thing. It was basically Russell Crowe when he's not angry and Russell Crowe when he is angry. So it's pretty much what it was. I kept expecting him to throw a phone at, when they were in the office sequence, to throw a phone at Tom Cruise. It would have been a nice little nod to reality there. So really good stuff. Interesting stuff. I'm really, really curious as to where that's going to go. All right. Well, we have got some movies to talk about tonight, and I am excited about them. I really, really am. First up, let's just dive right into it, Here we go. Let me set that up. Great. Let's dive right into it. The very first movie we're going to talk about tonight released August 20th, 2010, and we have Piranha 3D. Let's check out this trailer. Let's cue up the Terror Tube. I love it. Oh, hey, Joshua Lee. Good to see you. Says I'm late. No sweat. We just getting started. We talked about some Alien Romulus. We talked about some Universal monsters. But now we're going to dive into tonight's selection. So first up, Piranha 3D. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the Terror Tube.
Not funny, Paul. Let's go.
See that gap right there?
Yeah.
Quake opened that up. Now it's a connecting passage.
Descending fissure.
Oh my god. It's at least 200 feet, Novak. Sam?
Something bit me!
Sam, what are you seeing down there?
Oh my god.
Sam!
It's like this body's been in the water for weeks.
I want to know what the hell this thing is doing in my lake.
Is that a piranha?
This particular piranha vanished 2 million years ago.
I'm thinking about closing the lake.
There's us, and there's 20,000 kids. You do the math.
Take it off!
The sheriff has declared an emergency.
Don't worry, we got Pete over here!
Piranha hunt in packs. The first bite draws blood. The blood draws the pack.
Yes, that was the trailer for Piranha 3D in 3D. It's interesting because the 3D effects were actually were actually planned for from the very, very start. That was one of the things I will say that this film got right. So was because they planned for the 3D conversion towards the end, so everything was done correctly for that, which is why the 3D conversion actually came out pretty good. But Piranha 3D, directed by Alexandria Aja, which you should recognize that name from a number of fantastic films like The Hills Have Eyes remake, which was really, really good. Written by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg, based on Piranha, the 1978 film. It's kind of a remake of that by John Sayles, and of course starring a huge cast: Elizabeth Shue, Stephen R. McQueen, Adam Scott, Jerry O'Connell, Jessica Sozer, Kelly Brook, Riley Steele, Ving Rhames, Richard Dreyfuss, who had to be, the only reason he took the role was like the money, because they paid him a truckload of money to come and do this, because he really didn't want to parody his character from Jaws. So he felt bad. He felt weird about making fun of his character. So he's like, well, how about we give you a truckload of money? And he's like, okay. So he came out and did it in the opening sequence. Dina Meyer, Christopher Lloyd, so many, and of course Eli Roth and Greg Nicotero, who you recognize Greg Nicotero from his work on The Walking Dead. So really interesting stuff. Now, the film itself is a remake of the 1978, the original Piranha, only with some slight differences. One of the big differences being that the piranha in this film are not genetically modified. They are not biological weapons by created by the government that were then abandoned and then discovered by wayward teenagers, by horny teenagers. But they are like prehistoric piranha that existed in an underground lake. The script writers took the inspiration after the discovery of Lake Vostok, which was discovered by the Russians in Antarctica. It was like basically drilled down. There's a giant subterranean lake that's been closed off to the world for like 2 million years. They took elements of that, just brought it over to utilize this because it's more grounded in reality. And then here are these prehistoric piranha that have survived for millions of years on cannibalism alone, rapid breeding and cannibalism. And here they are. Now they pop up, despite the fact that it was really weird that these piranha were not completely pale or translucent color, which they would be without access to light, being cut off from the outside world. But it's a horror film, and it's meant to be tits and ass and people getting eaten by giant fish. So what do you expect? The film itself actually did fairly well for being a remake, because the formula on this one, the reason this one worked, and the reason why its sequel, Piranha 3 Double D, did not work, is because because number one was production value. Number two is that the film follows the Deep Blue Sea formula there. It does not take itself seriously by any stretch of the imagination. The focus of the film was important. It never takes itself too seriously. Everybody is just like ridiculous. And I think the most important thing is that everybody on the film looked like they were having fun with the film. It looked like everybody enjoyed being there, because with a set like this, Alexandra Aja is known for his very kind of easy breezy sets. People are allowed to act. They're allowed to have fun with the parts. The stress-free is one of the best about it. Now, especially with a film like this one, because despite the fact that it's so simplistic, narratively speaking, it's a very simplistic film, you have to admire the technical aspects of this film, because this movie was a technical beast. And in Alexandra Aja's own words, because originally he was attached and then he came off of the project when they wanted to go in a different creative direction. But when the Weinstein Company, I hate bringing up the Weinstein Company, but when they were unhappy with the direction it was going, they went back to Alexandre, who wanted to go in more of a thriller route, as opposed to just a straight up comedy. Because the idea was that Alexandre wanted to bring a level of like a thriller aspect to it, and kind of ground it in both. He wanted to be like a horror thriller comedy with comedy aspects to alleviate the tension, whereas writers brought in after him overhauled the script and took it in a far more comedic direction, where it was just like almost a straight parody. But the Weinstein Company is particularly, Harvey is pretty much what it was, because Harvey is the one who convinced Dreyfuss to come in for a truckload of money. And they were not happy with the direction it was going. And so they brought back Alexandre for more money. They said, okay, we're going to pay you more money to come in and fix this thing and write the ship. And so he brought in his original elements, but you can see elements from the old script, from the remakes, like the addition of Christopher Lloyd playing the kind of like, the almost like the marine biologist version of Doc Brown. So like just pulling from that, people pulling from what they do. Ving Rhames being the big solid badass, and everybody's pretty much cookie cutter of stuff that they've done before. Jerry O'Connell being a pompous dickhead because he does it really well. And so there's not a lot of depth here. The depth in the film, the depth in the film is definitely in the technical aspects. And as a filmmaker, I was sitting there wondering about how pulling things off. Number one, planning for 3D conversion is extraordinarily intense, because each scene going in, it's not just a matter of what you're shooting, but it's a matter of where you're placing things in the foreground and the background as it pertains to where your camera placement is, in order to try and deliver that 3D experience most effectively when you're planning for it. If you understand the conversion process, then you know where to place objects within the framing, so that whether it be CG or whether it be practical effects, in order to really make use of that conversion process. And Alexandre had a really fantastic understanding of that, so did his post-production team. So they planned for it throughout shooting, planning each shot specifically to be converted to 3D, which was why this film kind of got critical praise for the 3D conversion not coming off so ridiculous. It was like, wow, it actually looks pretty good. It's because they meticulously intended for that. The other thing was, shooting on water is always tremendously difficult. And when the vast majority of your film is set on an open body of water, which open bodies of water are notoriously unpredictable, weather is also problematic. You never know how the waves are going to be, how the wind is going to be. So you have to navigate around those natural obstacles that you simply, you can predict them to an extent, but not totally. And so if you imagine all the scenes on water with boats like that, are pretty you standard course like that. You have the additional boats, you have your divers, you have everybody handling and going like that. And sports, and of course the sequences where the two girls are naked and they're swimming underwater, that was obviously green screen. They shot that in an actual pool because lake conditions were not conducive for that. So they shot that in a pool, green screen the whole thing, and then put that into the deal so we can have that. So we can have some girls, naked girls making out underwater. But trying to imagine corralling 1,000 extras on the one lake scene. The whole movie centers around this, like the one giant set piece, which is the big lake massacre. When all the kids are in the water and all the piranhas show up and everybody just starts getting freaking eaten. You have to focus not only on individuals to drive the horror element, but you have these big wide shots where you have what AHA was working with was 1,000 extras in the water going freaking ballistic with practical effects, fake blood, fake puppet fish, and of course, in the knowing where to put the CGI. He said it was the most technically demanding scene. You wouldn't think it would be, considering that most of the fish in the water scenes were CGI. He said it was technically demanding to the level that he had not expected. And given a lot of the practical effects he's worked with, I got to give him props for that one. That would have been a notoriously difficult film or scene to frame and to actually shoot. So while Piranha 3D is good because it doesn't fall into the trap that its sequel did, or that a number of other films that try to convey these things way more seriously than they are, I think that's why the film works. That's why the film was successful. That's why the film made money. And it's fun. It's goofy. You have all the annoying people getting eaten in hilarious and gruesome and extremely gory ways. Jerry O'Connell getting eaten pretty much from the waist down completely. And the only words he can muster is, "They ate my penis." Shit like that I think is quite hilarious. It's a turn your brain off kind of like horror film. It's not meant to really push anything forward. Yes, Raven Dark said, naked women making out. Well, naked women making out, they're making out underwater. And apparently that was extraordinarily difficult as well. The two actresses who were doing that scene had to train for, I think one of them said it was the dark-haired girl. I think I have to catch her name, but she said she had to train for like 6 weeks on how to hold her breath and swim in a particular way in tandem with another person, so that they could get those shots effectively. Apparently, it's not something that just comes naturally to people. Obviously, it's not. And so they were in there, not to mention they're butt naked. They got the fins on. They've got to swim in tandem to each other, be able to make out underwater, do all these things in these fairly decent shots while there are divers around in the pool with them to ensure that they're going to be safe. So I found that to be the level of, the technical depth of the film is very, very impressive. So I got to give Alexandre and the production team behind it credit for that, of what went into making the film. Piranha 3D, I think, while it's not going to win any awards, and it doesn't really add anything to the genre, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I thoroughly enjoyed this one as a kind of, turn off your brain popcorn film, kind of an homage to the original Piranha, which was definitely darker and much more thriller-esque than this one was. And of course, I'm never going to complain about, a heaping helping of TNA in a film. I'm not, even if it services the plot, so what? I really don't care. The effects and the big set sequences are what are important to me. And are they able to pull them off? And I don't think they could have tapped a more competent director than Alexandre to actually deliver on that. So you have very talented actors, a workable script, let's say a passable script. There's no real line drops or bad deliveries. People are pretty much on point. You got a passable script. You've got a very, very competent director. You have good strategic planning, driving the film. This is how you make a movie. It's not going to stand out and be amazing. Exactly, Rode. It is okay for a movie sometimes to just be fun. And this is an example of that. That's what Piranha 3D is about. Just like Deep Blue Sea. Equal parts comedy, equal parts horror elements, thriller elements, a lot of tension, like this, but you don't take yourself seriously. You have very talented actors who are with a very workable, passable script, driving these things and not bringing a level of over serious self-importance to the whole thing, recognizing where they're at, but not to a point where they're meta and they're kind of breaking the wall. So that's the fun of these kinds of films, or if you have you juxtapose a really, really grounded scene, like Sam Jackson giving his big speech, they're getting eaten by a shark, shit like that. Tango says, it's okay, Jail. I have more than enough complaints about excessive, pointless TNA to compensate. I agree with you with that. It's a spring break movie. It's Party Central. They're doing a Girls Gone Wild thing, and that's how this kid gets drawn into it. They're out on a yacht. It's an excuse to get naked, or excuse to get scantily clad or naked people in the water and then see them get eaten by fish. It's pretty much all it is. Not to mention, there's some pretty gnarly effects in this. When the chick gets the top of her scalp, she gets her hair caught in the prop of a motorboat, and then it rips her scalp and most of her face off like that. You have sequences like that, people getting crushed by boats. Of Eli Roth with the Fantastic trying to get out of the water, and then gets smashed with a boat right after calling a woman a whore. So there's funny shit in there like that. All the bad guys and the douchebags, they all get their comeuppance. The good guys survive. We find out that Ving Rhames actually survived in the sequel because he comes back. He just lost his legs. So, but ultimately, it's fun. It's a fun, silly popcorn film that I will say just goes to show what can be done when people are professional, when effort is put in, and people, they do their jobs. And they're not just, this so easily could have been a throwaway film. Just to toss it in the bucket. Oh, we're doing a Piranha remake? Phone it in, cash my paycheck, GTFO. But they didn't. And this is the fun. This is what you get with, the fun of professionalism. When professionals come in and be like, you know what? Let's just fucking have fun with it. That's literally, that whole mentality is the reason this podcast exists. Because so often, we as filmmakers get tied up in the notion of the business of making movies. We forget why we're fans. We forget to enjoy ourselves and kind of relax and to soak in, to bask in why we became fans in the first place. And so to be a director, who's got their own vision, wants to bring in things, to get the opportunity to wrangle a remake and have fun with it and bring that professionalism to it, really good. Yeah, and Travis Brown said, Dreyfuss was in it for a spoof of his character in Jaws, but only after Weinstein offered him a substantial amount of money because initially he wasn't too keen on parodying or poking fun at his original character from Jaws. He wasn't down with that. So Weinstein came in and said, but you have a price, right? And so they paid him a bunch of money, and Dreyfuss went ahead and did it. Money's money. And parody is good. I think, even though people be like, he compromised, he sold out, he just think, I don't think he did. I think it was, that part is very important to him. And historically, as far as horror films go, it's very, very important. It's an important thing. And so he didn't want to reduce that unless it was worth it to do so. And it was worth it. Now, all of us will look at it and be like, it's awesome that he did that. I think if he had just gone and done it, it would have shown that he, that level of kind of that self-awareness would have been good. But hey, each to our own. That's a beloved role of his. So, but yeah, Richard Dreyfuss came out, jumped in a boat, and did a whole opening sequence where he gets eaten by a bunch of fish, a bunch of small piranhas. He sort of, it's not the same character, different name, but he survived the shark to get eaten by the fish. It's just entertaining, to say the least. So really, really good stuff. But yeah, a technical beast of a film that it is quite impressive when you start breaking it down by the numbers and what went into it. I can't even imagine what it would be like trying to wrangle 1,000 extras and 100,000 gallons of fake blood in order to try and do that entire feeding section, the feeding frenzy sequence with boats, people on boats, which are inherently dangerous. Actors on boats, extras in the water, extras on boats, stunts being done all over the place, giant wide shots, close-up shots, individuals to really focus on practical effects, people with various parts of their body missing. You got people with legs eaten off. You got people with big chunks of themselves missing. And it's all got to flow seamlessly without doing too many supercuts, without doing too many jump cuts. You got to let people take that shit in, So that is a beast. And I got to give it to Alexandre for pulling that off, because that whole sequence, the whole movie's built just for that sequence, and it plays really, really well. So really, really fun stuff. Good stuff. So while watching this, there was a question that popped into my head that I wanted to ask y'all. So our question in regards to Piranha 3D, and this kind of goes towards all. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Rodin says, at least Dreyfuss didn't look to the camera and say, not again. That would have been funny, because John Hurt already got there with Spaceballs. Mel Brooks, he knocked it. He was like, hey, what if he looks at the camera and is like, not again? It's John Hurt from Alien. Just fucking brilliant. Or some line that harkened back to Jaws, I think would have been hilarious. That would have been really, really good. So, the question that got me on this one, so many times we see horror films and franchises, especially in reboots, swing towards the camp. Okay? And it seems to be the formula that when rebooting a franchise, or the longer a franchise goes on, the camp continues to build. Campier, 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 campier. So, we saw that with the Chucky. We saw that with Halloween. We saw that with Nightmare on Elm Street. We see that with Friday the 13th. We see that with Leprechaun. We see it with Child's Play. You name it. The camp always, the more films there are, the proportion of camp always goes up. Or if the franchise is getting rebooted, there's always a significant level of camp. The one time we really didn't see it, or I would say the two times we really didn't see it. I think there are instances where they've attempted a reboot, they have had no camp, and then it goes nowhere. It goes it just goes nowhere at all. They can't get it off the ground. Nightmare on Elm Street remake and Friday the 13th remake didn't go anywhere. Child's Play didn't do that. Didn't make that mistake because they came off of the deal. They came off the deal when they came back. They still kept the level. So my question is, yes, sarcasm. There's a question there. The question is camp the only remake option? If you're gonna reboot something or remake something, are we so attuned to this formula that the only way to make a reboot a franchise successful is to dive headlong into the camp? Because that's exactly what Piranha did. Piranha took John Sayles' original that was dark and brooding and scary. Okay, then couple that with Piranha 2, James Cameron's magnificent Piranha 2. Is camp the only remake option for success, or is there a way to reboot something and get it to be successful again without having to dive headlong into either campy meta analysis. And that was my curiosity. What do y'all think? Because it seems to be that that audiences, not just American audiences, but audiences in general, they just want they expect the camp. You know, we get a remake or a reboot, we expect there to be a campy edge to it. And if there isn't, they typically don't do well box office wise, and therefore don't justify any sequels. So, curious about that. Let me know your thoughts. I know it's kind of complex. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com, because, you know, I see this trend. Yeah, see, Sir Cam says Bram Stoker's Dracula may be the exception to the rule, but it works so well. Now, but think about how many years in between, you know, between Coppola's Dracula and a legitimate, I mean, you're talking about going back to Hammer horror with Christopher Lee's Dracula. And that was, you know, those never really got camp. Those were never, there may be like moments of like British, you know, like whatever, but they always maintained a kind of like, you know, a dark undertone throughout. And Coppola just kind of like doubled down on that and really went for the gusto. So, don't know. Ronan Last Name says Jail is just preparing us for his overly campy version of Nail Gun. I promise you that Nail Gun has no camp. There are some comedic elements in there, but there's nothing campy in that film. That film is fucking savage. I will say that. I will say if we eventually get the Nail Gun film made, the script that I wrote, and I'm quite proud of it. I will say, I'm going to toot my own horn. I'm quite proud of the script. That script is fucking savage. So I didn't want to rely on camp. I wanted to go in the direction of like Alvarez, you know, Alvarez and you know, like not really dreamlike. The directors I had in mind were like Fede Alvarez, Frank Henenlotter, a number of others that really go for the extreme. I wanted to go brutal, you know. I wanted it to be mean, you know, lean, sleek, just a savage fucking film, and I think I pulled that off. So, but yeah, I can't wait. Hopefully one day. Hopefully one day. But yeah, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Is camp the only option for successful remakes? Because it seems that it is, but I could be wrong. Love your thoughts on that one. All right, let's jump on to our next one. I know people have been excited about this one for a while. It took us 5 years to get here. Tango says, going for the camp is an easy way to not challenge the nostalgia while still cashing in on it usually. I agree. I agree with that. I do. All right, our next one, released August 21st, 1998. We have Blade. Yes. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
Begone, serpent! Fuck, you're good, bro. Then she barfs, she screams, and I die. The end. Piece of cake.
We hope you understand. Bleed nothing. Take nothing. Kill nothing.
I have it.
You have. You've taken from us.
Better wake up. The world you live in is just a sugar-coated topping. There is another world beneath it. The real world.
For thousands of years, they have existed among us.
You keep your eyes open. They're everywhere. Chances are you've seen them yourself and didn't know it.
A secret nation
Our livelihood depends on our ability to blend in.
With a lust for power.
We should be ruling the humans. These people are our food.
They've got their claws into everything. Politics, finance, real estate.
There's a war going on out there. He makes the weapons. I use them.
Now, one will lead them to conquer mankind.
Tonight, the age of man comes to an end.
We're gonna be gods.
And one will try to stop him dead.
There are worse things out tonight than vampires.
Like what?
Like me.
Half human.
Blade's mother was attacked by a vampire while she was pregnant.
Half immortal.
You got the best of both worlds. All our strengths, none of our weaknesses.
He is their greatest fear. And our only hope.
It's open season on all vampires.
Wesley Snipes, Stephen Dorff.
You're one of them, aren't you?
No, I'm something else.
Blade.
Oh, yes, that was the trailer for Blade. Holy shit. Okay, yeah, where to begin? Let's just kick this bad boy off. So, Blade, obviously superhero film, directed by Stephen Norrington, written by David S. Goyer, pedigree right there from the very, very start, and of course, starring Wesley Snipes, Stephen Dorff, Chris Christopherson, Nabush Wright, and Janelle Logue, and Sanaa Lathan. The film and a number of others, Udo Kier, character actors. Udo Kier was in there. Tracy Lords was in there as well. Really, really good stuff. The film follows the titular character Blade, who is a daywalker, a Dhampir, who is a creature that has both the powers of vampires and none of their weaknesses, as he pursues his mission of vengeance against all vampires. It's based upon obviously the Marvel character of the same name, but that's pretty much what it is. So I will say this 100%. 26 years later, and this is so wild. 26 years later, this fucking movie still holds up. It has aged beautifully. Okay, I don't give a shit about late 90s CGI. There was no over reliance on it. We got exactly what we needed. Okay, we got exactly what we needed, and vampires getting dust and everything. The focus was on Blade. Okay, this movie holds up today. 26 years later, I still can't find. I can only find one thing that stands out, and that is there was one sequence that was two sequences that were very obvious, and that was when you had a character with blood on their face, where it seemed like the image shifted, where someone will be fucked up on one side of their face, then all of a sudden in another shot it's on the other side, and then it's back. That happens with Deacon Frost in the final battle. That switches like that, and it also happens with Janelle Logue's character with Quinn when they're fighting in the subway. But other than that, like technical shit, this film holds the fuck up. Okay. The blood sequences that we got for the Lamagra fight were, I thought, yes, for 1998, they were not bad. That was not bad CGI for 1998. Okay, that wasn't that. I think that was not terrible, especially when he reforms his hand and shit was pretty solid. But it's a hell of a lot better than what they were originally going to go with, which was the giant blood tornado. Okay, that you saw like on the screen in Pearls. It shows like the tornado fill the whole thing. They were going to do that for the final boss battle originally. Like, fuck that. No, we're not going that direction. Let's do the Blade Deacon Frost sword fight at the end, which is just fucking amazing. And Stephen Dorff brought some excellent. I think it was Stephen Dorff who had the fencing skills that he brought to that, and Wesley Snipes had to catch up. So, but given that Wesley Snipes trained to fight swords for that, Stephen Dorff already had the experience. And so they bring that in there. Amazing fights. The choreography is brilliant. The action is brilliant. But the one thing that really gets me, the one thing that You're reusing a lot of people, the lack of extras. Okay, given the budget that Norrington had to work with, there were a lot of limitations with what they did. So that's why you get a lot of like single location shots and the way the film was edited. So yeah, so you see the lack of a budget does kind of shine through if you know what you're really paying attention, if you know what you're looking for. But the thing that gets me on this one is the cinematography. The cinematography on Blade was absolutely stunning. And when you have like there's these beautiful little moments that juxtaposed against the high intensity action sequences. The final sequence in the Lamagra fight leading up to that. Wesley Snipes being the first, giving us the first superhero landing, boom on the knee. Years before Tony, what was that? 12 years before Tony Stark ever did it in the Iron Man suit. We got the first superhero landing, and that was Blade. Blade gave us the first superhero landing. First F words in a Marvel film. We wouldn't have an MCU if it wasn't for Norrington, David S. Goyer, and Wesley Snipes. We wouldn't. And I know that, and Blade 2, magnificent fucking movie. Blade Trinity, not so much. Wesley Snipes going through his own shit. Ryan Reynolds did his thing. But I don't think we'd have Deadpool if it wasn't for Ryan Reynolds to turn as Hannibal King. Because that goofiness led to him being cast as Deadpool in X-Men Origins, in Wolverine Origins, and that led to a legitimate Deadpool movie coming in. So Blade is responsible for setting the groundwork for the MCU we know today. Wesley Snipes' love of this character, his dedication to it, are the reason we have this. We have a dedicated performance from an actor who took it seriously and wanted to do something really special. A Stephen Norrington, who, the work that he's done as both beginning his career, because Stephen Norrington began his career working under Dick Smith and Rick Baker and Stan Winston, doing practical effects, doing effects work. And I think the first movie that he directed was Death Machine, which we talked about on this podcast last season. And so his work in Death Machine was fantastic. And so he also did, if you remember that, he also did The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as well. So Stephen Norrington, who knows how to, and he worked on Split Second, one of the most underrated Rutger Hauer horror films out there. I fucking love Split Second. It's one of my favorites. He worked on Aliens with James Cameron. So he brings that pedigree to this. He learned from Cameron not only practical effects work, but how to frame a shot. The way he uses depth of field, I think is for a superhero movie is fucking unparalleled. Where in superhero films today, you get a whole lot of wides and then your close-ups, standard formulaic shit. Norrington broke new ground on that by utilizing both the foreground and the background to convey story elements in the way that he shot it that is not often used today. I can think of maybe a handful of moments that superhero films use today. One very similar one, very Norrington-esque, was when in the very first Iron Man film, Iron Man shoots the fucking tank, turns around and walks away because cool guys don't look at explosions, and the tank blows up, and there's Iron Man doing like that. That's very Norrington-esque. Okay, Favreau understood that, and that's why Iron Man was so good. But Blade did it first, and this as a horror film is a legitimate horror film. Works us up from beginning to end. You open your sequence with obviously his mother getting attacked, the whole hospital sequence. You don't have a lot of information. You just have this dramatic scenario. Then just Blade, very simple Blade. Then you walk right into the bloodbath sequence, which is just brilliant. Okay? And then the opening of that when, you unveil your character. He's like standing in the midst of all like that. From beginning to end, the film does not quit, and it plays so beautifully. Everybody brings their A game. The cinematography makes it. I love those little moments of when Karen is exploring Blade's environment, exploring the shop and his little like his meditation area. The samurai roots of the samurai ideals that he brings to this. When after Whistler dies, the Ronin ideals like there with the cutting of the plant, and then of course you have these quiet, beautiful little moments that are not romanticizing of the vampire concept, but the romanticizing of the man fighting for the balance and justice of his own life, of the balance of identity, knowing who one is, exploring the character to that degree. These things are not done today. You have Tony, like if you want to kick it off as like Tony's kicking it off like with Iron Man. yes, Tony's problematic. He's got his ego, he's got his alcoholism, but these aren't addressed like Blade addresses its problems. Like that character addresses his flaws. The violence is justified in that respect as to what he is and who he fights, and the method and his methods. So we have like we're walking into the middle of a war zone, and looking at it from the side, the kind of like the conscientious objector. We're reviewing both, and Norrington handled that. They're like moments like in the lair, moments when Blade is driving. I love that there's that one sequence when Blade is driving Karen back to her apartment before he drops her off, using her as bait to draw out Krieger. When he drops her off, and Norrington captures that beautiful souped up Charger as it's driving along the highways, where the city by day almost looks like these open moments where it almost looks, it has like this deserted effect, where the vampires are so prevalent in society that during the day we don't even notice how few people there are, but the nightlife is always like, teeming because they're everywhere. So I loved how Norrington utilized small moments like that to create this atmosphere, to build this world that would eventually give rise to the MCU we know today. So practical effects wise, brilliant. Cinematography, fucking astounding. Goyer's script was still memorable to this day lines. Some motherfucker's always trying to ice skate uphill. Brilliant. The whole sequence with the cops shoot him, and when the police shoot him, and it hits his body armor. Motherfucker, you out of your damn mind. Shit like that just solidifies this one is as amazing. Left-handed Giant Briggs had a great washed out look during the day. Exactly. Because these are creatures by night. And so we get the experience of reality through the eyes of these characters. That is what cinematography is meant to do. So in every sequence, and the editing and pacing, so wonderful. There's no like jumping hard into these action set pieces and then jumping quickly out, where we get this kind of like this granny shifting, like this lurching transmission where we're trying to get from one section to another. Each one flows together brilliantly. Like the tension builds in the slow moments up to the sequence where all of a sudden the action hits. And that final sequence when he launches the assault launches the final assault on Frost's compound after Whistler's purported death. That whole, like, the little moments like that where we see glimpses when he remembers his mother seeing Karen, he remembers Whistler when he's about to shoot the familiar guy in the face. So all of it plays so well because instead of Goyer knew that for a film like this to be successful, the importance of it was focusing not just on the fact that Blade is a superhero or like superhuman, maybe even anti-hero to a degree, but to focus on the humanity, that because that's Blade's goal, is to be human. So to understand that, we must view it through a human lens. And those empathetic moments that lead to what we see allow us to identify with a superhero like we eventually would 12 years later in 2011 when we would with Tony Stark. Like we would with Captain America, So Goyer and Norrington and Wesley Snipes deserve the credit for that, which I love the fact that Wesley was brought back for Deadpool and Wolverine. He got to step back into the shoes of Blade, especially after all of the shit that went down on the set of Blade Trinity. Personality wise, whatever was going on, the movie could have been better, but nonetheless, this one is this one is brilliant. I cannot think of a negative thing to say about to think of a movie, especially a superhero movie, 26 years later, holding up to the degree this one does, both artistically, cinematically, storytelling wise, fucking crazy. That is just, and I just think, like Ryan Reynolds says, this movie doesn't get the props that it deserves. I don't think it does. And I know it was brought by New Line. New Line coming out of nowhere with a Blade movie, that the house that Freddy built, coming out of nowhere with a Blade film. And I remember back in 97, 98, when this movie dropped, I remember that word of mouth wasn't that huge. Superhero movies had not done very, very well. Adaptations of comic books or video games were not stellar. Okay, you had a bunch of failures preceding this one, and then all of a sudden, New Line comes out with this one, and Wesley Snipes was the driving force behind playing the character. David S. Goyer came in, his work on a number of other scripts. He wanted to take part in it. Steve Norrington at the time, a very talented director, but relatively on the cheap. No major name here. You bring in this extraordinary talent, and bam, there you go. Oh, Raven, if you didn't, I didn't spoil it. That was already talked about in the live chat. I apologize if you may have missed it. So I apologize if you may have missed it, but I thought you saw it because someone already mentioned that him showing up in Deadpool and Wolverine. There are so many cameos in that one anyway. I mean, the list is insane. But I don't think at this point, considering that there are images out there of him from the film, I didn't think it was a spoiler. I know you may be trying to avoid it, but I apologize about that. If I spoiled that for you, I apologize. But I think I can rest assured there are so many cameos in that you're never going to get. I mean, it's going to be insane. That is one of many. So I will say that. But yeah, Blade, an absolutely stunning and amazing film, and set the tone for superhero films going forward. The ones that have followed Norrington, the films that have followed Norrington's and Goyer's, I would say they're kind of like, I would say their recipe. The recipe that they concoct to do this. The ones that follow these things are what are so important. And so that's why those films are successful. Could you imagine if the Black Widow film, Scarlett Johansson's last entry in the MCU, if the Black Widow film, because Black Widow is a dark fucking character. That is a dark character, considering what they did to her. Joss Whedon hinted at that in the behind-the-scenes stuff in Age of Ultron. Could you imagine if Black Widow's film followed the tones of Blade? You think about who they are. Kind of like, well, they're not vampires, but she's an assassin. She's an assassin raging, basically taking the fight to the industry, to the thing that made her. That's what Blade is doing. He's fighting the thing that made him. And so that's what, could you imagine if the cinematography, if the intensity, if the characterization, if the focus was put on those things, what Black Widow could have been, instead of doing the whole campy thing with you can even bring in, like the captain, whatever, for her fucking dad and her mom and shit like this, or her adoptive father and mother. You can even bring those characters in, and like Yelena Belova. But if they were given given the depth of character that they deserved, that could have been an amazing fucking film, instead of just resting on their laurels to cash a check. Really put something out there, and that is what Norrington did. So if you haven't watched Blade recently, it's on Amazon. You can go and find it. It's actually I found it on 123 Movies. 123 Movies is there, instead of having to buy films all the time. But 123 Movies is there, and it's streaming. You can go check it out there. I myself rented it on Amazon because I bought it because I wanted a digital copy to go with my physical copy. So yeah, instead would have been better that and not fracking with Taskmaster, right? Exactly, or maybe do Taskmaster correctly, in that respect, like that. But this should have been the standard. Favreau knew that. Favreau looked at what Norrington what Norrington and Snipes and David S. Goyer brought forward, and Favreau ran with that. Although it's a different character, and you got to go with the money side of it, he explored those elements. The whole sequence, you think about that. Tony gets blown up. He winds up in the cave. He finally like that. That's some depth of character right there. The little moments he has with the people around him, with Pepper, with Happy, with the dude who was in the cave with him. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Those moments are so important, and we stopped getting them. But the only reason we got them in the first place is because of this fucking movie right here. Okay, love it across the board. One of the best, final climaxes in a while. Some of the best, quotable dialogue all over the place. Wesley Snipes kicking ass, taking names. And once it was established, he got to go full bore in Blade 2 with under the helm of Del Toro. When I loved listening to the commentary on that, when he was talking about all his fighting styles that he was utilizing in the big fight sequences, when he's like improvising his fight technique, improvising how he approaches each combatant. Really brilliant shit. When you have an actor as talented as Wesley Snipes, who can deliver lines who can deliver lines that would come off as goofy and other by other actors, but comes off with pathos and intensity and doesn't come off too self-serious and too like chewing the scene. When you have not to mention physically capable as he is, when you have those moments, that's how you get an amazing film like this one. 26 years later, it still fucking holds up. It has aged beautifully. Love that. Oh, the bloodbath sequence is unforgettable. The Lamagra sequence is unforgettable. Really brilliant shit. Really, really good stuff. Not to mention Janelle Logue, great. Stephen Dorff, fantastic. I'm going to be naughty. I'm going to be a naughty vampire god. Meanwhile, his friend Deacon is about to fuck him over because nobody realizes it. And I love that. They never address it. They never really address it because they never get the chance. Blade kills everybody before Frost can fuck anyone over, even though the elders are like, he's just going to kill you after he kills us, right? Like the whole thing comes true. You're all going to die. You get that, right? And they're like, no way. And then even then, in that moment, he's like, we're going to be gods. And like like Stephen Dorff's character knows that that's not what he's like, sure we are. It's like, it's all placating. It's all bullshit. I love that those little hints were in there. And yes, Joshua Lee says, would you say the music also makes a great movie? The EDM in this movie is amazing. Yes, the soundtrack was top notch, late 90s EDM techno with some nice little some classical moments in there that I thought played really, really well. Really good stuff. You have the top notch soundtrack. The soundtrack and scoring was brilliant. Red Guardian. I knew it was Red something, but Red Guardian, the Soviet version of Captain America. You got fat. So, Ronald Abe says, chewing the scenery is Wesley Snipes' legal middle name. It is now. It wasn't then, but it wasn't then. It wasn't then, and it wasn't in Blade 2, but it certainly was in Blade Trinity. It certainly was. So, yeah. But, yeah. Oh, yeah, J-Verse, good to see you. NA, I saw you as well. Good to see you, NA. And J-Verse is dark is the current portrayal of Punisher's mental illness, and I love it. You think about that. Look at Punisher Season 1. Daredevil Season 1. Okay? Those hit those notes perfectly. Jessica Jones Season 1. Look at those notes. Look at that connective tissue between Blade and the Netflix stories that we got. And look what happened when they abandoned it with Danny Rand and Iron Fist. And they kind of like stepped away from it with oh shit. You know who I'm talking about. Luke Cage. Okay, look how they abandoned that. Look how they abandoned those storytelling elements, but they nailed it with Jessica Jones. They nailed it with Deadpool. They nailed it with Daredevil. They nailed it with the Punisher. Okay? A character who takes it seriously, who can deliver those lines, and they knock it out of the park. We need that to connect with these characters. We got it with Blade, Huge props to Wesley Snipes and Stephen Norrington and David Ascoria for bringing that to us, for enabling this. Really fantastic shit. You got to love a fucking movie, especially one that can hold up. It broke superhero ground, established what we know as the MCU today. Go back and watch it if you have the chance. You're going to love it. You're going to be pleasantly surprised how well it holds up. So, definitely. All right. So here's my question regarding Blade. Okay. And no, I'm not mentioning. I know I didn't mention anything about the potential reboot with Mahershala Ali. I don't know if it's going to happen, especially now that Wesley Snipes done what he did with Deadpool and Wolverine. So I don't know, but Wesley Snipes will always be Blade to me. He always will be. He knows the character, especially after Blade 2. Blade 2 was so fucking good as well. It's good. Capitalized on everything that made Blade great. Two visually different styles of film, but Norrington, standalone. Fucking standalone. But my question for you guys is, of the trilogy, okay, and we're not going to talk about the Stars series starring Sticky Fingers as Blade. We're not going to talk about that because goofy as shit. Great value Wesley Snipes, great value Blade. But of the trilogy, Blade, Blade 2, Blade Trinity, which one was your favorite? Which one was your favorite of the original Blade trilogy? Let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Of the trilogy, this one is my favorite. With Blade 2, very close. It's a rare time I don't give Guillermo del Toro top props. Not to mention, Luke Goss was amazing in that fucking movie. His chemistry with Wesley Snipes, brilliant. Loved the Night Pack, or loved the Blood Pack. Ron Perlman, can't go wrong with that. So much good stuff in there. But this first one, ranks right up there, you know? Yeah, Blade 3, no mention. Well, Trinity's in there, you know, despite how goofy it was. But yeah, let us know down in the comments below your favorite of the Blade trilogy. So here's what you guys think. Oh, Rodnell's name is Sling Blade. Gonna kill me some vampires. All right. Tank Whistle says, all I remember from Trinity is Triple H. He was so goofy, but he was lovably goofy in that. I still like Ryan Reynolds just kind of made that film. You made a goddamn vampire Pomeranian? Experimenting with the Reaper strain from part 2. So, oh yeah, absolutely brilliant shit. Brilliant shit. Yeah, Travis Brown. Okay, Travis Brown said, I've only seen the first film, need to see the second. You haven't seen Blade 2? Holy shit. You need to get on that. Blade 2. Watch it in succession. Watch Blade 1, watch Blade 2. Watch them, you know, in that order. Okay? Watch them in that order. And then Blade, you know, Trinity if you want to, you know, pick up from there. So, yep, that was Blade. So, let's move on to our next one. Totally different vibe on this one, but still excellent stuff. Released August 23rd, 2013. We have the kind of like the adventure horror, the adventure horror Devil's Pass, based on actual events. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
I won't tell anyone. Please, I swear. No. Please, I'll do anything you want.
It's not about what I want anymore, Mitzi. It's about making the best of what I have.
Years ago, 9 people set up camp in the Ural Mountains in Russia. It had become known as the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Are you scared?
No.
We're recreating a trip in which 9 people died.
Yeah, what, like 50 years ago?
Time to go.
It's a test, you know? Man against the elements.
Guys, say hi from Ibdel!
Come look at this!
What is it?
The GPS is all screwed up.
We should just leave.
By the time we get packed up and get moving, we're gonna be hiking in the dark.
You gotta reset it now. Ah! Ah! They tried to bury us so it looked like an accident. Help! Where'd he go?
Yes, that was the trailer for Devil's Pass, originally titled The Dyatlov Pass Incident, came out in 2013. And of course, written by Vikram Wheat and directed by the legendary Rennie Harlin. He is from Cliffhanger and Cliffhanger fame and Die Hard 2. Starring Holly Goss, Matt Stocco, Luke Albright, Ryan Hawley, and Gemma Atkinson. The film is a found footage film that follows a group of college students who set off to the Ural Mountains to explore and possibly find the explanation behind the Dyatlov Pass incident, which was an incident that took place in real life. For those not familiar with that incident, it was about a group of Russian scientists and students who went out into the mountains and never returned. And what was uncovered of them was quite distressing. That they were all dead. I don't think they found all the bodies, but they were dead. They'd been dispersed. Their campsite was destroyed. Some people were found naked. and things that happened to them, and there was odd amounts of radiation that were discovered there. Interesting stuff. But nonetheless, the legend of the Dyatlov Pass incident has kind of like grown to a specific degree as a kind of like a legend in that respect, because so little was confirmed by the Russian government. And it's suspected that a lot was held back about that. But a perfect thing about this one, about stories like this, is they make for very, very creepy and compelling storytelling. My only beef with this one is that I think it didn't have to be done in the found footage style. Found footage just, means that we can operate with a smaller budget. And I get that because, it's always a bummer to see a director like Rennie Harlan having to do like found footage shit or being reduced down to that. I think it is a reduction in that because he's so much better. And so it's such an incredibly talented actor. Die Hard 2 was amazing. Cliffhanger is one of still one that gets me. But yeah, what we get in this one, despite it being found footage, I know a lot of you out there hate found footage. Johnny O particularly hates found footage. But this one is a fairly compelling and, a taut, little creepy little film that puts more emphasis on atmosphere than it does on. It puts a lot of emphasis on the unknown aspect of the atmosphere, instead of like trying to like dive hard into like monsters or yetis or shit like that or aliens. But we do get an interesting finale. Now, this one came out in 2013, so if you didn't watch it, you're going to wind up getting spoiled for you. And in this one, what I think serves the best in this one, despite it being found footage, is the production value on this one. I thoroughly enjoyed that throughout it we get decent characters that are well established, that ultimately fall prey to the horror trope of doing stupid things. Despite preparing for every eventuality, they wind up making dumb decisions. But I will say that even though they make dumb decisions, there's still argument. There's the script works to that degree that there are arguments set against those dumb decisions. Okay, and the dumb decisions that are being made are usually them being forced into a dumb decision. So it's like, instead of like, let's do this, that's dumb, but they do it anyway. It's more like, let's do this. No, that's dumb. Let's come up with something else. And then in the middle of trying to come up with something else, something happens that forces them into the only decision they've established, which is a lot more realistic than I think people give credit for. Sometimes the dumb things we do are because we have not thought of another option. We sometimes get forced into doing it, and that's how that happens. And I like that the script took that in this direction, so that plays a little bit better than just dumb people doing dumb shit. Okay, like that one character, the GPS is not working, the compass is on the fritz. We got here way earlier than we should have. Something's not right. Let's go. Let's like leave. And then they're like, but no, we should stay. Our project is, don't we want to find out the truth? Not at the expense of our lives. But then the avalanche takes place. Then the Russians show up and shoot them like that, and that's how that winds up happening. Now, the big key on this one is that after so many years, so many decades, you got to wonder, and that's what I wondered going in. How are you going to figure out what happened in an event that occurred decades later, which was possibly covered up by the Russian government? So they go out there, they do the thing. The locals are hostile. The entire like little town where they crash before they go on the hike. The whole town, like that whole experience, is the Harbinger experience. Turn back, don't go in there, you'll all die. That's the whole Harbinger experience, and they ignore that. They go out into the mountains and encounter what they encounter, and essentially stories like this are fun. Plumbing the unknown works because you can add whatever you want, so long as you don't step outside the boundaries of what has been established by what happened in real life. And all you have in real life is that a bunch of people went out and died. Unexplained circumstances, like the unknown compelling force. Well, what was that? We don't know. You can make that into whatever you want. So stories like this, you can play around with and have a lot of fun with. I've myself written a couple of scripts that's played on these things as well, where we can add stuff to it because it's never sussed out in the original legend. So that's where Devil's Pass kind of works. And then the film takes a different tone because we have this nice, steady build leading up to a nice camaraderie, good character chemistry, decent script. They don't sound like off-putting, like untalented line readings, but leading up to the bunker, where they discover the bunker in the hill. And that's where the film, and they discover the bunker, and they're like, getting some radiation detection on the Geiger counter here. It's not too bad. It's not lethal, but we wouldn't want to be exposed for too long. So let's ignore the bunker and not go there. Besides, it's frozen shut. We probably can't. But then because forced to do so, they make their way into the bunker, and that's where they encounter the big twist. And the big twist is that the Russian government discovered or rediscovered something in the earth that they set up experiments around, and that's where the big thing happens, where time travel is involved, or technically time teleportation. So, and that's how they get set up, because they go into the bunker and they discover monsters in there. Okay. And then they get trapped. And then the only way out, because they can't go through the monsters, they have to go out through this weird teleporting electromagnetic weird thing, portal thing that's like naturally there. So then they go through it, and then they wind up, back outside in the past, where Russian soldiers wearing the stuff that, in period piece outfits show up, drag them away, take them back into the bunker and lock them up. But the bunker's all in good working order. So they went back in time and became the monsters that they would encounter later on. So the Dyatlov Pass is now, this is where it kind of drops the ball. Despite some decent production value, despite the bunker sequence, which I thought the bunker itself was pretty magnificent. Getting, developing sets like that, like establishing sets like that, is always really, really tough. You can do things, fake things as much as you can, but you really need that production value. The monsters that was where the film drops the ball, really. The monsters are these mutated, teleporting creatures. Okay, they're human. They're human, but they've gone through the teleportation thing, and it's changed them. And they link that back to the Philadelphia experiment. So this draws other kind of legends into it. The teleportation experiment, or the debunked teleportation stuff with the Philadelphia experiment. The Russians were utilizing that to try and weaponize it and turn it, they wind up turning people into monsters. And so everything fell apart. And the Dyatlov Pass incident is unfortunately set to the side. Like, what happened to them is never explained. What we do get is a story of some people going out to explore that tale, to explore that legend, and then wind up confirming something else entirely. But we're never told how it relates to what happened with the science. Never really told how it relates directly to the original story. So, script-wise, it kind of drops the ball there. It's a bait and switch. It's like the big old switcheroo. So Harlan, I think, unfortunately, got kind of stuck with the script. This is one of those movies that comes along that you just do for a paycheck. And I like what they did with it, just not how they did it. Something like this could have been far more effective if done correct. CGI monsters at the end, especially when you're shooting them in night vision, to compensate for the fact that you have very little budget and you're trying to reduce how much the audience is aware of how bad your CGI is, that's never a good sign. And they I think, honestly, that they could have gone in a slightly different direction, a more subtle direction, instead of trying to do this big kind of action sequence where they're Doom running through the bunker, escaping from monsters that can teleport that you can't hurt, because every time you swing at them, they disappear and appear somewhere else. An ability they picked up from the portal they walked through. So, hey, Omni, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Raven says, who debunked the Philadelphia experiment? I'm not going to debunk it here. I've talked about it before on other places, but other people have debunked that, like what the Philadelphia experiment was. Like, it didn't show up in North Carolina. The ship didn't teleport. So, but Gowdens Raber, good to see you. Says, hey, y'allsies, good to see you, Gowdens. Thanks so much for being here. Yes, dropping both balls. Unfortunately, I think Devil's Pass, despite the things that it has working for it and the opportunity to tell a compelling story that I think would have drawn audiences better despite being found footage, they went too over the top. They went in a Rennie Harlan direction instead of a more subtle direction. Rennie Harlan does big. He does big stuff. So you can expect the big set pieces, the big action pieces. That's where Rennie Harlan succeeds. That's his bread and butter. That's his wheelhouse. Let the man do what he does, but not in a story like this, when your atmosphere is so rural and so desolate. you essentially, anytime you try to bring these elements in, you wind up forcing it, and it feels very, very forced, especially when they get into the bunker and all shit hits the fan. So in that respect, that's where Devil's Pass really doesn't get across the field. It doesn't really get the ball in there. So that's my issue with Devil's Pass. Two kind of different films. Tonally, it shifts, especially after they enter the bunker. It becomes a total Rennie Harlan film. Before that, it felt very grounded, but you're not gonna. It's not gonna break ground like that. I think it's one of those movies that comes along that plays in the area of the unknown, which is always good, always fun and compelling. But I wish it wasn't Rennie Harlan behind it. I love Rennie. I love his work, but I don't think. I wish it was somebody else behind this. Someone who had a better grasp of how to maximize found footage to better effect, instead of trying to force it to do something that it's not meant to do. Very Blair Witch, instead of like very Blair Witch and very, very Grave Encounters. That would have been good. Okay. Not to the extreme nature that Devil's Pass went. So ultimately, I think, if you dig the story, if you dig the elements there, like the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident, how they kind of weave that into other legends, other unexplained phenomena, or other like legends that exist out there, like the Philadelphia experiment, I think you may dig this one. You might. Although I think it kind of jumps the shark once they enter the bunker. But my question on this one, given that Devil's Pass is based on actual events, the Dyatlov Pass incident, there are movies out there that do that as well. Everything from Dyatlov to the Donner Party to various other incidents that took place, like Roanoke. My question is this: what is your favorite real unsolved mystery, akin to like the Dyatlov Pass incident, or the Roanoke Island, or anything of that nature? Think about these things, about these legitimate events that took place that leave so much to the unknown that we can plumb those depths for and create whatever stories we like. This is how legends are born, is when we add things to the collective zeitgeist. So let me know down in the comments below, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com, your favorite real unsolved mystery. The ones that you find the most compelling. I'm curious to what you guys think. I like it. Angel Rivera brought up Jimmy Hoffa. Very cool. Raven Darkstar, Roanoke Island. And I think American Horror Story did that pretty well. Not the best American Horror Story, but I like what they brought to that. Roanoke Island, the mystery of Roanoke Island. Roanoke Island's real life mystery, how Michael Bay still gets funding. Yeah, it's a very good question. Ooh, Jack the Ripper's a good one. Jack the Ripper's good. Zodiac. So many places and so many movies have done it. A lot of real life stuff there, but a lot of unknown that we can plumb. So Jack the Ripper's good. Zodiac is good. Interesting stuff. Ooh, the Phantom, the Phantom Killer of Texarkana. Good stuff. I Killed Earl. Good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. Yeah, we just went over Blade before we did Devil's Pass. So yeah, Joshua Lee. There's a lot of source material to work with in there. And what are you gonna do? So. Ooh, The Death of George Reeves. D.B. Cooper. Where's Socks Go in the Laundry? I love it, Omni. Very good. I love it. Good stuff. All right, but let me know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. And I don't know if I mentioned this, if I missed it. Sarcasm gifted 5 memberships to the Army of the Dead. Thank you so much, Sarcasm. Very generous of you. I do appreciate that. Please enjoy all of the new emojis, brand new members, if you're enjoying those memberships now. So enjoy those emojis that I made for you. All right. Ooh, The Flying Dutchman. Also a good one. Definitely. Let us know down in those comments. Those interactions help with the algorithm. They really, really do. So, all right. Are garden gnomes really tiny weeping angels? I love Doctor Who. Well, I love Doctor Who up to a point. Moffat kind of did the thing. All right. Let's dive on to our last film of the night. So happy we get to talk about this one. Brilliant shit. Released August 24th, 1990. We have Sam Raimi's superhero effort. 2 superhero movies tonight. Darkman. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
What's your favorite scary movie?
You'll never find me.
Yeah, what do you care? Let them have their fun. So, what's up?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Showgirls.
I was doing you a favor, saving you from your miserable excuse for existence, giving you a family, status, privilege, all the power in the world.
I'd rather die than be a part of this.
You modern women are so ungrateful.
Who
No foolish heroics, if you please.
is Darkman? They destroyed everything he had, all that he loved, everything that he was. Now, crime has a new enemy, and justice has a brand new face.
I was afraid that you wouldn't want me anymore.
Of course I still want you.
The good news is that I know who's behind our little troubles of late. Finish it.
He has the power to look like any man,
These two are both sons of witches!
but he is unlike any man.
I gotta tell you something about me.
He's a cockroach. You think you're killing?
I love that. Excuse me.
Someplace else.
In the darkest hour,
Julie, who's the real monster here?
there's a light that shines on every human being. But one. From director Sam Raimi, Darkman.
Wrote name. I have a particular set of skins. And Dr. Giggles was one of the bad guys. This is fantastic. Yes, that was the trailer for Darkman, Sam Raimi's legendary superhero effort. I fucking love this movie. Written and directed by Sam Raimi with input from Ivan Raimi, Chuck Farrer, Daniel Golden, and Joshua Golden, and of course starring Liam Neeson, Francis McDormand, Colin Friels, Larry Drake, Ted Raimi, Dan Hicks, and Nicholas Worth. And Joel and Ethan Coen, the Coen brothers, actually pop into this as well, as the driver and passenger in an Oldsmobile, which is really, really good. But the film follows the scientist Peyton, what's his last name? Peyton Westlake, who was a scientist working on developing synthetic skin that can hold up to assist burn victims. That's what he's obviously good scientists work towards a big world breakthrough. And his girlfriend works for this particular conglomerate, which has ties to organized crime and shit. Larry Drake's character, that's how Larry Drake's Durant comes into play. And the two worlds collide, and Westlake winds up getting damn near killed by Durant and his bad guys because they're aware of information that could sink their whole operation. And in an effort to try and cover things up, they try to kill him, but they don't. They horribly mutilate him, and he's burned beyond recognition. But utilizing his synthetic skin, which lasts for a temporary amount of time, only 99 minutes, because in daylight, in the light, the cells break down, but in darkness, they can hold up. But he decides to use his synthetic skin to create faces and become Darkman, where he can take the guise of any person he wants and go out and be not really intending to be a superhero, but becoming what he is, to go out and fight against the forces of evil. So, the first thing I could say about this one, Darkman was Buffalo Bill before Buffalo Bill. I like that. Yes, taking faces and stuff. So, it's true. He grew his in a lab rather than harvesting it from live donors. So, the brilliance of this one. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys. I'm going to start out by asking you all a question. Darkman came out in 1990. All right. There was a big superhero film that came out in 1989. 1 year before this one did. And I know you all know which one I'm talking about. Okay. Tim Burton and Warner Brothers got together and delivered Batman for us. We got the Tim Burton Batman. And then in 1990, we got Darkman. Now, Darkman did not at the time. Darkman did not belong to any comic book. It didn't belong to DC, didn't belong to Marvel, nothing else like that, because Darkman is purely a creation of Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi wanted to do a superhero movie early in his career, like back then in the 90s. Okay, he wanted to do a superhero film, and he could not get the licensing to do a superhero that was already established. So he went back to a short story he wrote about a character that could swap faces that he wrote long ago that paid homage to Universal horror films. That classic kind of like Invisible Man kind of storytelling, the Universal monster storytelling. And he took inspiration from that and wrote a short story about this guy who was disfigured, and he could utilize skin to, basically chameleon-wise, very much like a chameleon, and become other people and seek his revenge. And so originally Raimi wanted to adapt The Shadow. And you see the elements here. The elements of Darkman are deeply inspired by The Shadow. Okay, but The Shadow's owned, so couldn't get the licensing. So he took that inspiration and took his short story and struck a deal with Universal Studios to make his very first big studio production, which was Darkman, which was this one, with Liam Neeson in the starring role as Peyton Westlake. Tony Gardner's makeup effects, I think, are for 1990, are top notch in this. I thoroughly enjoyed. This is one of those sit back and enjoy the film for what it is, as the establishment of a character. But it is a prime example of when you cannot, not to be confused with Alec Baldwin's The Shadow, which was not great, or Billy Zane's The Phantom, which was also not great. The fun one of this one, it is a popcorn film. And it's an excellent example of when you can't do what you want to do by other people's standards, you say fuck it and you do it yourself. If you can't adapt someone else's work and do a superhero film, fuck it, make your own superhero film. And Sam Raimi did, and that's why we have this character that exists now and has existed on, and is now actually a part of the Marvel universe. Technically, Darkman is a part of the MCU, so he could come back. In that respect, we could eventually see him, but that's the beauty of this one. And the driving force behind Darkman and why it's so much fun is, of course, the practical effects of this. The fun part of watching this character, the character arc of Peyton Westlake run along these lines. And of course, I see that it keeps pointing Dutch snap zoom. That's one of the best parts, I think, is Sam Raimi's cinematography. Is the Dutch angle and the snap zoom into somebody's face, and then wham, and then I've loved that. I've loved that Sam Raimi technique ever since Evil Dead. I love that he utilizes that in everything. It's like a classic. It's a classic shit. I love how he does that. So really, really fun stuff. And this one, I think, in 1990. Okay, this is what I wanted to ask you guys, because I couldn't get over it. Given the composing, given the scoring of this film, okay? The scoring for Darkman was done by Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman also did the scoring for Warner Brothers' Batman, the Tim Burton film. So obviously you see a lot of Hallmark. You see it's, correct me if I'm wrong, punch me if I'm wrong in this. They're goddamn near identical. Okay? There is so much Batman vibe in this entire film because of Danny Elfman's score, which just settled into my mind how iconic Elfman's scoring of Batman was, that now if you hear it, you simply cannot unhear it. The stuff that Elfman did in Burton's Batman is not repeated here, but his composition style is unmistakable, just like Zimmer, or I forgot the other dude's name, works with Spielberg all the time. John Williams, just like Williams and Zimmer. So in this, Elfman's score brings it across. So this entire movie, not to mention, I have to point out, I think Raimi took a lot of hints from Burton. he saw where Burton's Batman failed, and he corrected on those things, which I think was really important, because I came away after this little rewatch, and some of you may think this sacrilege. And I talked about it with Aaron Reese, Aaron Reese before we did the episode. I honestly think Sam Raimi would have done a better Batman than Tim Burton. I'm a comic book geek. I'm not as big a DC fan as I am a Marvel fan. I do like some characters DC, but I'm a big Marvel fan. I'm Spider-Man. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. But obviously, Tim Burton did not have a strong grasp of the source material. There was things he knew and things that he'd been told, but that obviously didn't. There's a lot that didn't translate across the board. So we got this kind of Burton, the Burton-esque environment to do a Batman film. Raimi understands the gritty nature of these characters, the psychology behind them. And that is really, really important. Okay, especially when you have a character like Batman, to make that character relatable to people, as opposed to, because Bruce Wayne being the billionaire, we can't really relate to that kind of sense, but we can relate to Batman because he has no powers and he's on a mission of vengeance. We get that. That's why Batman's the most popular of the Holy Trinity: Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. So that's why Batman, we keep getting Batman films. We don't get a whole ton of like Wonder Woman and Superman films. It's because Batman. So, but this film, Raimi did everything right. Okay? Whereas Burton, with the budget he had, Warner Brothers behind him, everything he had going for it, okay? And a lot of really good elements. Jack Nicholson was good, was great as the Joker. Michael Keaton will forever be Batman in my mind. The scoring was brilliant. Gotham City looked fantastic. This wonderful kind of like what was it? This almost like 40s, 50s, neo-futuristic, anachronistic kind of like, so Gotham City being the city that it is, but it's very Burton-esque, and I don't think that I never thought that lent itself to it, the way that story should be told. So just very, very Joker fivefold revenge and very the kind of like of those comics. So I think that Raimi could have done a far better Batman, but he showed it with what he gave us in this. A solid character that we can identify with, played excellently by Liam Neeson before Liam Neeson became the man with a particular set of skills. I think that what Liam Neeson brought to this really makes it work. His chemistry across from Larry Drake, the Larry Drake who was Dr. Giggles, is great villain, great actor. It's a shame that we lost him when we did, but this is the classic vengeance noir style action film that Batman should have been. And I like that we have this one in the zeitgeist, that I wish it got more attention than it does. So Ike Little says whoever did the costumes and makeup for Batman and Batman Returns deserves an AA. Absolutely, the stuff that was done in that is fantastic. The sequences with the Batmobile looked fantastic. The fucking Batwing looked amazing. The Batcave was great. Batman Returns got a little too kind of silly, but I like the more grounded approach with the first film. I do. There's just there's comic element for us heavy duty comic nerds. There were elements that Tim Burton missed. And I'm kind of in the camp that Kevin Smith is on that one, and that if he had gone in a direction like Raimi did with Darkman, it would have been far better and would have paid better homage to the origins, to like the DC origins, to the Detective Comics origins of Batman, and I think we would have got a better Batman film. And so you look at what before Liam became Qui-Gon, so. That's what's fun about this one. And not to mention Palmer's makeup effects in this one to make Westlake look, like the almost like skeletal, like, burn monstrosity that he is. There's these wonderful little moments there, classic Raimi moments, especially when he gets all frustrated, when he does the whole frustrated sequence and he's like busting up his lab and he puts the freak thing. He does the whole like freak dance and shit. Beautiful little moments that are classic Raimi that dot the entire landscape. A lot of fun stuff. So a popcorn film that I think helped to inform how these types of movies are made. And I was excited to talk about Darkman because one, it's a kind of like a guilty pleasure of mine. But you think of the aspects of these these kinds of superhero films breaking ground on this. Before this, Watchmen was just in written form, exploring the dark side of superhero characters, or like the dark gritty now like that had been relegated to either comic books or graphic novels at the time, and so we didn't really have a taste of that cinematically speaking. And I found it interesting that we get to talk about Blade 26 years later. Blade came out around this, in 1998. This one came out, 8 years before that. That there are elements of Darkman as far as characterization, cinematography, and storytelling wise that have informed films, superhero films that came after it, but definitely, I think, informed how Goyer approached Blade. Even though the characters, if you can see some connective tissue there, but knowing what to focus on is so important. Losing sight of the, with your eyes on the forest, as Disney often tries to do, with their eyes on the forest, they lose sight of the trees. Goyer didn't do that with Blade. Sam Raimi didn't do that with Darkman. And these two films, I think, are way more important than I think a lot of people give them, than a lot of critics out there give them credit for, because their presence opened the door for other individuals to come along and take that in a direction that has, I think, literally shaped the foundations of cinema as we know them today. That certain tropes are the way they are because of groundbreaking visionaries like Sam Raimi and Stephen Norrington working with David S. Goyer. So that's kind of where I take it in that direction. As far as the film goes, Raimi getting the opportunity to do big stunt sequences like the stuntman hanging off the helicopter, going through the city. It almost felt very Maniac Cop in that sense, Maniac Cop 2, where we get the opportunity to see these big action pieces like that, where studio money can get you to do a lot of really cool stuff. And I have no doubt that whole sequence of Darkman swinging on the bottom of the helicopter, like on the hook of the helicopter and going through that. The way there are some shots that I have no doubt that inspired him to one day set his eyes on Spider-Man. No doubt about that in my mind whatsoever. So, but you got to love what he brought in, what he turned into this. Darkman is a lot of fun. Really, really strong superhero film. I think does not get the credit it does. Not to mention really, really good performances. Great bad guy performance. Larry Drake, just classic shit right there. And Liam Neeson, Frances McDormand, which is her relationship to I think it was Joel. I think she's dating Joel at the time. Or she was with Joel at the time because she was in their film Blood Simple. And then of course Fargo as well. Then so them being in there, everybody coming together. That's the beauty. That's the fucking beauty of Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi, Rob Tappert, and Bruce Campbell. Okay, Bruce Campbell popping in at the very end of that little cameo as he dons the new face to run off and be Darkman, and then we get that one moment where he turns around and looks back at Frances McDormand like, "Oh, my old life," and it's Bruce Campbell. These guys are the epitome of teamwork, and I know it's cliche. Teamwork makes the dream work, but as far as filmmaking goes, that's what it's about. And Sam Raimi is the epitome of bringing people together to make really cool shit. And people want to work with him constantly. And I love that about Sam Raimi. Always getting people to, even if they're not even related to his original group of actors, the group of filmmakers that came out of their high school. People gravitate towards individuals like Sam Raimi, like Bob Tappert, like Bruce Campbell. They want to be around them. They want to work with them. They want to hang out with them. It's always fun. And that's what sets this one apart. One thing that I got about Darkman is how much fun it looked to have been on that set. And how much fun those actors were having with those roles. I love Neeson's excitement, what he brought to that. It was genuine. It was organic. The Frances McDormand's performances, everything flowed so well. The classic, mustache twirling villain at the very end. Ha ha! The city is mine. I loved those classic comic moments, that Sam Raimi had such a grasp on. And that really cements this one. Cements this one, I think, in horror history as to what it was, what it did better than bigger studio films could have done. Universal had their eye on the prize. Warner Brothers, I think, just trying to set something up to make more money. So, Kroll was my first Liam Neeson experience. Kroll was my first, and then Schindler's List after that. So, but gotta love what they brought here, especially an actor of the talent of Liam Neeson, willing to dive in there and be the monster that Darkman becomes, be the creature that he becomes. Great practical effects there. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check it out, it's online. Go see it. You're really, really going to enjoy it. So the question that I have for the audience tonight, and here's the big kicker. Darkman got 2 sequels: Darkman 2, Return of Durant; Darkman 3, Die, Darkman, Die. Or no, maybe I reversed those. Darkman 2, yeah, Return of Durant, and Die, Darkman, Die, which was the third one. And Die, Darkman, Die came out in 96, had Jeff Fahey in it. And I believe it was Arnold Vosloo came back to play Darkman. I think Vosloo picked up the role. You remember Arnold Vosloo, he was the dude who played the mummy in the Brendan Fraser film. So Arnold Vosloo comes in and portrays Peyton. So they get 2 more films. Larry Drake comes back for the sequel, and then Jeff Fahey comes in as the bad guy for the third film. And it has not been touched since 96. So this franchise, the entire franchise, is older than Blade. They got 3 movies out before Blade hit screen. So my curiosity is this. Could Darkman be rebooted? Could we see this character again? Could someone else pick up the reins and run with Darkman again? And that's what I want to ask y'all. Is Darkman even worthy of a reboot? Okay? Reboot worthy? Yes or no? Put it down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com that you agree that yes, Darkman is totally reboot worthy with the practical effects that we're capable of today, with our ability to do action set pieces, with the technology that we have that Raimi didn't have back in 1990. Could we do this bad boy again and make it even more badass? I think we could. And I think that it's been long enough. It's been over 20, over a quarter of a century. We could bring Darkman back. We could. I think it's reboot worthy. I really do. This is one of those ones that we could go back and visit. Okay? Definitely. All right, so let us know down in the comments below, weekinhorror@gmail.com. Cindy Sue says yes. Good to see you, Cindy. Thanks so much for being here. And Tony James says yes. We are ready for a grittier and darker Darkman. Very cool. Angel Rivera says reboot worthy, but not with the mentality we have today about reboots. Agreed. 100% agreed. Absolutely. Tang Whistle's dipping out before the evil noises. Yeah, she has a headache. Okay, Tang. Cool. Extra J, good to see you. Says the Deadpool was my first Liam Neeson experience. Nice. Very cool. Tang Will says could totally be rebooted. Raven Darkstar says yes. Joshua Lee says absolutely. Travis Brown says no. No reboot. No reboot for Darkman. So Sarcasm says let Tim Burton have it. Please no. Please no. Let's not do that. But I would like to see a new Darkman. Ooh, a Darkman fan film, a gritty noir little like a 30-minute fan film. Release it online. See how it does. That could be interesting. Got some good practical effects opportunities in there. But yeah, Ronan Last Name says rebooted but with another quirky director. Agreed. I dig that. Put him in with Doctor Strange. I like that. Travis Brown says what stays in the 90s should stay in the 90s. Amazing. All right, but let us know down in the comments below what you think. Darkman, reboot worthy, yes or no? Love to hear what you think. All right, well, that is the last one for tonight, so it is about that time. You know what time it is. It is trivia time. Absolutely, it is trivia time. So be the first person in the live chat to get the correct answer to tonight's trivia question, and you will win a special item from the Week in Horror store. You got to get those Google fingers ready. This one gets a little deep, so I'm gonna give you an opportunity. The trivia question tonight is: Darkman appeared in a 2006 limited horror comic run where he teamed up with what related horror legend? Darkman appeared in a 2006 limited horror comic run where he teamed up with what related horror legend? Let us know the correct answer. First person with the correct answer in the live chat wins a special item, a mystery item from the Week in Horror store. And Omni Oros Boris knocks it out of the park. Yes, Darkman teamed up with Ash Williams. He teamed up with Ash to fight the evil dead because the Necronomicon is basically the Necronomicon is used to revive Durant, and then the Deadites pop up, and Ash shows up. So Ash and Darkman team up to take on the evil dead. So congratulations, Omni Oros Boros. I've got your name down, and we will get that printed and shipped to you ASAP. Well done. Turner James said the Invisible Man. That would have been cool. Darkman and the Invisible Man. That would have been interesting. Wrote it no name. Also got Ash. Excellent. But Darkman and Ash Williams. Darkman teamed up with Ash to take on the Evil Dead. Very good stuff. Both created by Sam Raimi. Excellent stuff. So, congratulations, Omni. Well done. And like I said, we'll get that printed and shipped out to you ASAP. If I need to update your shipping details, get them to me via the email address, weekinhorror@gmail.com, or you can message me directly via Discord. Okay, make sure that we have your shipping details right. All right. And that, Horror Fiends, will conclude this episode of the Week in Horror podcast. We truly hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, smash that like and subscribe button and be sure to hit that bell so that you never miss a future episode. Join us next week when we look back at the documentary-style cryptid classic, The Legend of Boggy Creek, the vampire chase horror, There's No Such Thing as Vampires, the unreliable narrator horror, Let's Scare Jessica to Death, it's a week of long titles, and the film festival meta horror, Bloodfest. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. He does all the awesome artwork you see splattered all over our merchandise, which you can find over at Teespring. And for more from Week in Horror, check out all the bloody links that are down in the description. Follow us on the socials for the Daily Splatter. Join our Discord for watch parties, big announcements, all kinds of horror shenanigans, and support the show through channel memberships, super chats, super thanks, PayPal, or even through our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. What are y'all waiting for? Join us. As always, a huge thank you to each and every single one of you for being the best audience a horror film podcast could possibly have. We love y'all. We'll see you all next week. And as always, stay scared.